Hello out there, everybody. Today is Tuesday, the 22nd of March, and seeing as how I'm still alive, time for another Tunesday from the shop in widescreen format today from my soon-to-be ex-location here on the Oberhaldenstrasse in beautiful Wohlen, Switzerland. Thank you all for the concerns and comments, both privately and publicly, expressed over the last week. Very much appreciated. I'm very much on the mend. Still have some shortness of breath and this weird little electric kind of vibration that goes on once in a while in my chest. But other than a little bit of brain fog, which any long-term associate of mine will tell you I've had for about the last 50 years or so, things are going in a very positive direction for me. So thank you all for the well wishes. Now, last week, in the middle of the plague, I recorded a jig for you from home, a great old tune from the great Paddy O'Brian from Nenagh, County Tipperary. A tune often called Paddy O'Brians Jig. He actually called it the Boys of Loch Gowna, also sometimes called the Humours of Loch Gowna, but mostly you hear that tune, or at least I have heard it called Paddy O'Brian's Jig. A good friend of mine, Mark Bossy, who I've known for the last 40 years and can well attest to my brain fog over the years, wrote to me and said, thanks, get better soon, thanks for recording the tune, but because it was a small screen format, we didn't get to see what you're doing in your hands in that F natural bit. So I told Mark I would re-record that tune today, but since it's now a retread, I'm going to add a second Paddy O'Brian tune to it. This one called Ardaigh Do Mheanna, in my very, very bad Irish. Ronan Healy over in Belgium, thank you very much for the pronunciation. I hope I got close. In English, tune's called Raise Your Hopes, which is also, I thought, an appropriate wish for these trying times on so many fronts. Before I play these tunes, though, because there are people like Mark and other flute players out there always on the lookout for some tips, I just want to talk a little bit about this first Paddy O'Brian tune because it has some F naturals in it, and especially F that goes directly to a D note. If you have a 6-key flute like mine, you have two possibilities using keys. The first, the short F, which is what I use 99.9% of the time. The second is this low F that you work with your pinky finger. The whole purpose of this key, it's got nothing to do with being a left-hand dominant or anything like that. It's literally so you can slur from an F note to a D note. Because when you use the short key, if you play an F and try to slur to the D, either sliding your finger off the key or lifting it up and coming across, you're going to get an E note in the middle of that. So now we come to the question of how do we get rid of the E? When you bear in mind every note you ever play has three sections. It has the attack, which is where you start the note. It has the body, which is the part of the note we hear. And it has the release, where you literally release that note. You let go of that note and go on to the next one. So what we're looking to do is clean up the release from that F to the D. The way I do that is by using what a linguist would call a glottal stop. Or in Ireland, they call it a cough in your flute playing, which is where you're closing your throat very quickly to make a separation between the notes. Easiest way to do that, the way I teach my students, is if you think of saying, uh-oh. You're not using your tongue to separate that, you're using your throat to separate that. Uh-oh. Now, if you blow and think of pronouncing uh-oh, that is a glottal stop. So everybody can send me $100 for the flute lesson, no problem. So what I would do is use that glottal stop at the end of the F to get a separation going into the D note. So we'll give a go at the first Paddy O'Brian's, and now the second the Raise Your Hopes. This is a really cool tune in D major. It's very, very accessible for flute players. Let this be your first Paddy O'Brian tune if you don't know any of Paddy's other tunes. Some of them do tend to get a bit twisty. He being an accordion player back in the day. And stylistically, you'll hear a little bit of a difference in how I play these two tunes. The first tune for me is it flows like the river shore. I don't like to break up that flow too much. I like that feeling in the tune, but the second one, I want to put a little bit more excitement, few more hard notes into this tune. It's the last tune in the set of these two tunes I'm playing, so I want to go for a little bit more power approach with that tune. A lot of these measures start on a middle D, and so what I'm going to do, instead of playing the higher D, I'm going to play a hard D. The beginnings of these phrases to get a lot more power sound in the tune. So, all of that aside, here we go. So there you go. Hup Tipperary, hup Nenagh, hup Paddy O'Brian, hup the monks. There you go. Banjo Tommy McCarthy. You got a new Skip Healy Paddy O'Brian set for the monks on Wednesday nights. So a couple of couple of great jigs for you. I hope you enjoy them. The second tune, as I say, very, very flute friendly. Get in there, pick it up, bring some Paddy O'Brian music into your session. You're never going to go wrong with that. So, everybody, stay well. If you're not well, get better. We'll see you again next Tuesday for another Tunesday from the shop with Skip. Cheers, everybody.